Yes. I was telling Vince that I'm interested to know what you guys are flying, the military jets.
Oh yes. We'll see in the comments what they are flying.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool.
All right. So let's continue again. Sorry about that. We got disconnected.
Yeah. Well,
Um.
what I was going to mention before, my thought is that in the organization that flies the World War II airplanes, they're called the Commemorative Air Force,
Mhm.
and they're all over the world, but they're mostly in the United States.
Mhm.
And two of our pilots who fly Warbirds now are both they were both F-16 pilots, and another one was an A-10 pilot. So we have a
Wow.
lot of. I'm actually one of the few pilots there that's not a military, um, based pilot. I was just civilian. So,
Wow. So a lot of your colleagues there are military, right?
all ex-military, most of them.
Wow. That's really fun. I think.
And there's one who was an airline pilot. There's a variety, but mostly military, because the organization is run kind of like the military, in the way we train and the way we move up through the different airplanes and stuff.
Wow.
I'd say the only difference is we take our time doing it, whereas the military is kind of moves more quickly.
Mhm. Wow. And how many hours did you accumulate them? How many years did you stay towing gliders? And
Well, I still do it now, even off and on. It's fun. Um, but I probably did it really seriously maybe for about 10 years.
huh.
Yeah.
Oh wow, 10 years. That's
Yeah.
that's fun.
But then I also, it was like just part time on the weekend, once in a while. And I also drop skydivers using a caravan, a turbine caravan. Um, so I like jobs where you have a lot of takeoffs and landings.
Wow. And do you need the special rating in the states for flying a caravan, or single engine land would do?
Yeah, caravan, you don't need any type rating. We call it a type rating here because it's under 12,500 pounds.
Uh huh.
Anything that's turbojet or over 12,500 pounds, you have to have a type rating for.
Uh huh.
Except for the warbirds. For example, the Zero that I fly, because it's a very specialized airplane and it's a warbird, it has its own type rating for the FAA. So I actually have a type rating for the Zero. And most of the fighters we have there are all requiring type ratings. Like you have a Hellcat, for example. If I'm going to go fly the Hellcat, I have to go get a type rating for the Hellcat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really good. Um, and for the Texan, you need the type rating too, no?
No, Texan you don't, because
Okay.
it's lighter and it's not considered, even though it's considered a warbird, it's not a fighter, so they don't require a type rating for that, which is good because it would be kind of unnecessary.
And do you still have guns on those? I mean, or it was demilitarized?
Yeah, there are guns on our T6s, but I think they're plugged or they're fake. All our guns are plugged. None of them. I mean, there are machine guns in the Zero and cannons in the wings,
Uh huh.
but they're all done functional. It's not legal to have them functional.
Yeah. Actually, I downloaded an X-plane. What do you call this? I downloaded a Zero on what do you call this? On my X-plane. Been flying it around before our interview. In fact, I paused it because the engines were so loud, and I couldn't control the volume, and they would never hear you. So I just paused the sim. But I'm trying to look for a manual. Unfortunately, I only see a Japanese manuals, I guess. So yeah. Anyway, maybe I'll ask you some numbers on how to fly this thing. I guess even the gauges are all Japanese.
Yes, and speaking of the manual, we don't have a manual for it either.
Really?
So yeah, there's no real manuals left over for Zero that I'm aware of,
Uh
and
huh.
so we make our own. Um, and a lot of the knowledge when we fly these fighters is passed on through word of mouth and training, because there is no
Oh.
manual. And in the airplane, unlike a lot of other airplanes, we typically don't use a checklist. We have to memorize it all.
Uh huh.
Um, and there's no manual, so everything is memorized. And in the air show environment, it's kind of better that way because you can't be fiddling around with a checklist when things are moving so quickly.
Yeah, correct.
So
Yeah.
we're in the same shape you are. We don't have a manual for it.
Oh, okay. Actually, I was just trying to fly it by feel, and then I ended up ground looping it on the ground. So I was able to land it, but once you slow it down,
Yeah.
it starts a ground loop. So, I don't know.
Well, that's tail draggers.
Yeah, and I was telling them it's a different kind of airplane. In the air, it's the same, but once you're on the ground, it's a different thing. Yeah. So what else did you enjoy flying before? Like you've flown jets, you've flown tail draggers.
Yeah, I think another one of my favorites was I lived in England for a while,
Uh huh.
and I flew Tiger Moth at Duxford, which
Wow.
was a famous World War II base, and now it's a flying museum, very similar to the museum we have,
Uh huh.
flying museum we have. And flying the Tiger Moth was really great because we fly it off grass.
Uh huh.
It has a tail skid. It doesn't have a tail wheel. It has a skid,
Wow.
and it's a biplane. Um, and it was very uh, it was kind of romantic to fly that thing on the grass strip. You know, you can